So this past Tuesday, I went downtown to the cenotaph for the Remembrance Day Memorial. And it was actually a really impactful experience. I'm ashamed to say I've never actually been to a Memorial Day service on Remembrance Day, and it was really moving. People all gathered together, hundreds of us, to remember those who have served to protect our country and who have died in defense of our country. And one of the most moving parts for me was a time where everybody got the chance to see wreaths being laid at the cenotaph, representing different groups and organizations and even countries. And there was a wreath that was laid down from the Netherlands, from Holland. And that had a special significance for me as I was watching, because both of my grandparents are from Holland. And they lived through World War II, and they lived through the German occupation. And they remember when the Canadian troops came into Holland to rescue them, to liberate them. And so it was, really moving to see this wreath being laid as I thought about my grandparents and how that war even impacted me today. And I had my rosary out. I was praying for the protection of our troops, especially for my own friends that are in the military, and praying for the souls of all those who had died, who had sacrificed their lives so that we could live in freedom today. And as I was praying, I was thinking about what it must have been like for those soldiers to go overseas to fight in those different places, whether they were suffering in the trenches or flying through the air or on the oceans, like what that must have been like, the suffering that they had to have gone through, the injuries. Many of them died, but all of them, they saw horrors that none of us can really imagine. And in their darkest moments, I wonder if they ever thought to themselves, "What is this all worth it? Like, is my life having an impact on others? Is my story here, my sacrifice, is it actually accomplishing anything?" And yet here we all were, all downtown, hundreds of people gathered to do just that, to remember them, to make sure that their sacrifice doesn't go unnoticed, and asking God to keep our land glorious and free. And everyone there, publicly, we were sharing in this collective experience of remembering and seeing how the individual lives of these soldiers have impacted us today, that they have a profound meaning, these soldiers' lives, and they deserve to be honored even if they didn't fully realize their impact while they were still alive. Now I wonder, have you ever felt that you were small, that you were insignificant in the face of a big world? Like your life, your story, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because there are so many crises happening in our world right now. There's wars, and there's diseases, and there's poverty, and all these things. And in the face of gigantic issues, sometimes we can feel really, really small. And we're tempted sometimes to give up trying to do anything, because it's like, well, it's just little old me. Like, what can I do to change anything, really? And sometimes we don't think our lives are meaningful because we don't feel like we're having as much impact as other people. I don't know, like celebrities or politicians or artists that seem to be making a big mark on history, that their legacy is going to be remembered. And you wonder, like, well, what's my legacy going to be? Is anyone going to notice me? Or maybe because of all the suffering that you've had to endure in your life, whether it's physical suffering, whether it's emotional or relational suffering, at times you might wonder to yourself, what's the purpose of all of this? Does my life matter in the long run? Or am I just one more blip on human history amongst the billions of other people that have lived on our planet? Well, I want you to know that your life has incredible meaning. Your life is incredibly valuable, whether you're able to see that or not. And there will come a day where you will be able to see the impact that your life has made on the world. And everyone else will be able to see that impact as well. We've been going through this preaching series called Memento Mori. Remember your death. And we've been urging all of you to be preparing for the certainty of your own death and ready for what happens after death. And if you remember, the first week I talked about heaven, hell, and purgatory, right? The personal judgment that all of us will experience at the moment of our death. And those who have rejected God's mercy, who did not turn to the Lord, who lived a life of selfishness and pride, immediately upon their death will go into hell. Those who have believed in Jesus, who have asked for his forgiveness, who have turned away from their sins, will be welcomed into the glory of heaven with God forever. Although, if you're like me, you'll probably be in purgatory for a little bit, getting ready for that glorious day. Then last week, Father Aaron spoke about how in death, our body and soul are separated. Our soul leaves our body, but that at the end of time, at the resurrection of the body, everyone will get their bodies and souls back together. So the damned in hell and the saints in heaven, everyone is going to be reunited with their bodies. And today, I'm giving the final homily in the series, which fittingly enough is on the final judgment. It just gets cheerier and cheerier as we go through this series, right? The skull on the page should have given it away, right? You knew this was going to be an interesting series. But I'm not sure if you caught the psalm refrain that they were singing today. The Lord is coming to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and the people with equity. And as we're singing this song, we're proclaiming this truth, that Jesus is coming back one day. One day he will return. And when he does, he will speak final judgment over all of human history. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, hold on a minute. That was first week, wasn't it? Like when we got judged? Like, what's the purpose of the second judgment? Is it kind of like this divine court of appeal where if I didn't like my sentence in the first round, I can like come back at the final judgment and argue my case maybe more convincingly? Not quite. Right? The Catechism of the Catholic Church actually puts it like this. The last judgment will reveal, even to its furthest consequences, the good each person has done or failed to do during his earthly life. So the final judgment will reveal to you the full consequences of your actions, even the consequences that have happened on earth after you have died. Now, this can feel a little bit out there, a little bit hypothetical, so let me share kind of an analogy about this. Imagine that there's a parishioner here at our parish named Sarah. I know that there is already, so if you're a Sarah out there, take this in, right? So there's a parishioner named Sarah here, and she's just lovely. She is amazing. She loves the Lord. She serves. She comes to Mass, and she's just totally in love with Jesus. And because of that, she invites her friend Kathy to come to church with her, and she invites her to come to Alpha. And Kathy has this amazing experience of God's love through Sarah witnessing her faith. And Kathy has a conversion as well. So now imagine that Sarah, shortly after Kathy's conversion, Sarah dies in a tragic car accident. And Sarah is before the face of God for her personal judgment after she dies. And Jesus says, Sarah, I knew you in life. You were my friend. You spent time with me. You turned away from your sin. You put your faith in me. Not because of any good things that you've done, but welcome into heaven. And in that judgment, Sarah will see the impact that her life had on Kathy. That because of her, now Kathy is having this life of faith. So super, super exciting. Sarah goes into heaven. Saint Sarah, pray for us, okay? So Sarah's in heaven. Now Kathy is still on earth. And Kathy, she's had this conversion, so she starts inviting all of her friends and her family to Alpha. And many of them start to convert and turn to Jesus. So at the end of the world, at the final judgment, Sarah in heaven will go through this final judgment, and she will see all of the ripple effects of her good actions throughout history. She'll see how not only did she impact Kathy's life, but all of these other people through her yes to the Lord. And it will just have that much more glory and joy for her as she celebrates in heaven. So this is one element of what's happening in the final judgment. You're seeing the full consequences of your actions throughout history. But another dimension of this is that the final judgment will be public, in that all of humanity will be present and will be judged together as a group. So Jesus actually speaks about this in the Gospel of Luke when he says, "Nothing is concealed that will not become evident, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light." So when you die, your judgment is between you and God. But at the final judgment, everyone will be witnesses. It's like a highlight reel of your life, but it's being watched by billions and billions of people, all the people that have ever existed. Now, I can quite literally see the anxiety in the room rising. It's like, oh no, Father Isaac, not everything I've done, not everyone, right? And if it's any consolation, you get to watch everyone else's life too. So, we're all in this together. But remember, the way that you experience the final judgment is going to be very different depending on where you're spending eternity. So for those who have died and gone to hell, they're going to experience the final judgment almost like a public shaming because of all of their own regrets that they've taken with them into the afterlife. So all of the crimes, all of the sins that they committed here on earth will be put on display before everyone. And all the people that they victimized here on earth will be able to see justice finally being done to their abuser as King Jesus establishes justice finally. So people in hell, they'll see the full devastation that their sins have caused on the world, even after they have died. But they will also see how Jesus was able to overcome their evil. They will see how Jesus was able to bring good out of everything. But because they're in hell, they have all this guilt, all this shame, they won't be able to recognize any goodness about it. They'll just see it as an attack. They'll just see it as something that will redound to their shame for all of eternity. But if you're in heaven, it's going to be a very different experience because even your worst moments, even the darkest moments of your life, will be transformed. You'll be able to see them all in the light of the mercy of Jesus. You'll see how God saved you from your sins, and you'll be so rooted in the love of God, you'll be so secure in belonging to Him, being loved by Him, living in His protection, nothing can harm you, that your worst moments will only lead you to love God more as you see them. Remember, in purgatory, any regrets or any guilt or any shame that we had, that all gets burned up. You're perfect in heaven. So you're experiencing this final judgment from that perfected state. And you'll get to see all of the good that you did, all of the hidden, unseen victories, all of the silent prayers, everything that you did to love the Lord, to love others, that will be lifted up and celebrated in front of all of humanity, kind of like how we celebrate the saints now. So because of the final judgment, all of us will finally be able to understand how God has worked through human history and how He was able to bring good out of evil that seems so unbelievable how He could do that. We'll see how our own lives have impacted the lives of others around us. We'll see how we were impacted by the decisions of others. It'll kind of be like this collective aha moment for all of humanity, recognizing all that God has done. And we will see justice served because King Jesus will bring justice. He will publicly glorify the lives of His saints, and He will publicly expose the shame and guilt of those who are damned. And we will see, finally, the significance that our lives have had on human history. So yes, the answer to this question is your life has incredible value and importance. And at the final judgment, the whole world will be able to see that. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I want to be ready for this. I want to be ready for the final judgment. I want to have a good experience when Jesus comes to establish justice for the whole earth. How do I prepare for this moment? Well, you guessed it, memento mori. Remember your death. Because going back to that experience that I had on Remembrance Day, there were specific things that we were all doing collectively to remember those who had served in the armed forces and those who had died. And one of the things that we did was wear poppies. There was poppies everywhere, poppies on jackets, on hats, on scarves. I even saw someone had pinned one on the vest of their dog. There was poppies everywhere. And we wore these poppies literally to serve as a memento for the day. It helped us to personally remember the fallen. But we also wore it publicly. We wore it on the outside of our coats so that everyone else could be reminded of the need to remember those who had fallen. So what if we had a similar memento for the final judgment? Things that we could use to internally remember the need to prepare for our own judgment, but also a way to show the world that they also need to prepare as well. Kind of like mementos of our mori. I don't know if that Latin works at all. I almost failed that in seminary. So, mementos of our mori, mementos of our death. Well, what if we made the decision to wear a crucifix as a memento of our death? To put up crucifixes in the rooms of our houses, to every day be able to look upon it and be mindful of the death that is coming, but also that we want to be in friendship with Jesus, who suffered and died for us, that he laid down his life for us, that he sacrificed his life for us so that we could have eternal freedom. Not only would this remind us to prepare to meet Jesus, but it would also be a public witness to those around us of the hope that we have found in Jesus Christ. So what if you wore your crucifix on the outside of your coat, on the outside of your shirt? Lots of us, I'm sure, wear crosses or crucifixes, but the tendency sometimes is to tuck it away so that no one sees it. What if we wore it out publicly? Kind of like Canadians wear poppies on their jackets to let everyone else know, I'm Christian. What if we hung crucifixes in the most public places in our homes or even in our businesses, our workplaces, our offices? Because it would show that we are unafraid to witness to the fact that we believe in Jesus and we're open to telling others about him. They can introduce someone to Jesus because they open up the door for a conversation about faith when people realize that we're wearing our faith literally out on our sleeves there. So let the memento of the cross be an internal reminder for yourself of the coming judgment, but also a way to help others prepare for that great day. And there's so many people here at the parish that are inspirational in how they witness to their faith in this public way. And I just want to celebrate one of them. There's a couple called Danny and Clara Vaux. I don't know if you know them. They're normally here at the 11:30 Mass, sitting right here in the front. But one day, my parents had come to visit, and we were downtown Halifax, and I ran into the Vaux, and they have a convenience grocery store downtown. And they weren't expecting to see me. I wasn't expecting to see them. They're like, oh, well, come check out the store. And I went in, and I was so impressed that behind their counter, right there in their shop, they have a crucifix, they have pictures of Jesus right there on the wall. So that as they're going about their work during the day, they're able to look at Jesus and be reminded of the sacrifice that he gave for them, but they're also publicly witnessing to anyone that walks in the store, we're Christians, and we'd love to tell you about Jesus. Think of Bill Scollard. Many of you know him. Bill has this cross that he wears around his neck, and he always wears it over his shirt. And one day, a man asked him, does that mean something to you? And Bill said, oh yes, it means quite a lot to me. Let me tell you about it. And over a series of months, Bill began to share his faith with this man, to tell him about Jesus. This man was quite elderly, and he had been far away from God for decades. But after so many conversations, finally Bill was able to get through to him. And he turned his life over to God. He went to confession. He got ready. And when he died, he was ready for the final judgment because Bill had worn this memento around his neck, showing his faith publicly to the world. We can all do this because one day, all of humanity, every single one of us will be gathered before the throne of King Jesus. And he will pronounce final judgment over human history, and we will see the impact that our lives have made on those around us. So let's remember our death and prepare so that when that great day comes, we will be able to see that our lives have left a legacy of faith that has rippled throughout history.